Good morning. Please rise in body or spirit and lift your voices to hymn 224. We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is the church of the open mind. This is the church of the helping hands. This is the church of the loving heart. Together we care for the church and each other. The welcome this morning will start with Monica Jacobson Tennyson. She wrote, "Welcome. What you bring, who you are, enriches us all. We say welcome to your joy, your hope, your pride. We say welcome to your grief, your fear, and your anger. And the parts of you that are not ready to be seen and heard, welcome to them as well. For we are people of faith. Faith is our expansive welcome. Faith in our ability to grow. Faith in the precious gift of our truths. Faith in the promise of trying, learning, changing. Faith in our capacity to know ourselves and each other ever deeply. May this time together be a blessing. My name is Gay Glasscott, and I am worship associate today. Our minister, the Reverend Mitra Jafarsada, is on sabbatical. Reverend Alice Debo is the sabbatical minister in her absence and is with us today. We are grateful that you have chosen to share your time and your energy this morning with us. Together we are strong. Together we are complete. Together we can face each day with love, with kindness, with forgiveness, and a lot of hope. If you would now stand, if you're able, for hymn number 226, People Look East. Please join in the affirmation. This is the mission of our faith, to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the whole world in our hands.
This is the time in our service that holds a ritual of care. You are invited to come forward and select a stone that reflects something you are holding, a joy or a sorrow that affects your life, and then place it in the sand. When we place unique stones together in a bowl of sand, we create a mosaic of our shared lives together. If you are online and you want a public joy or concern shared, you can type it in the chat. And if you're here, you can write it on paper and bring it forward at this time. Gay is lighting a flame to keep the joys and concerns that we hold in this community alive in our hearts. And now we have a story. It's for everybody.
Good morning. My name is Ashley Rhodes, and I'm going to tell you a story about Mullah Nasruddin. Mullah Nasruddin had been working in the fields all day long. He was tired and sweaty, and his clothes and shoes were covered with mud and stains. I feel a little sweaty. Because he had been fasting all day long for Ramadan, he was also quite hungry. But finally, it was almost sundown, and Nasruddin knew that he would be able to eat. The wealthiest man in town had invited everyone to come break their fasts in his home that evening with a huge feast. Nasruddin knew that he would be late if he went home to change his clothes. He decided it was better to arrive in dirty clothes than be late. You don't want to be late. Oh, what a party it would be. What a feast. As he walked to the wealthy man's home, Nasruddin imagined the delicious foods that he would soon be eating. Dates, lentils and chickpeas, olives and bread, hummus, falafel, chicken and beef, and best of all, the desserts, halva, date rolls, figs, baklava. When Nasruddin arrived, the wealthy man opened the door and looked Nasruddin up and down. From his worn, ragged clothes down to his muddy shoes. Without a word of welcome, he gestured for Nasruddin to come in and walked abruptly away. Nasruddin went in, joined the throngs of people who were all dressed in their finest clothing. The tables were laden with all sorts of delicious foods, dates, lentils and chickpeas, olives and bread, hummus, falafel, chicken and beef, and best of all, the desserts, halva, date rolls, figs, baklava. Despite his efforts to hurry, the seats were all taken, and nobody tried to move over or make a space for Nasruddin. In fact, nobody offered him food. He had to reach over and around people to get any food for his plate. Nobody spoke to him. It was if he wasn't even there. The other guests ignored him so completely that Nasruddin could not enjoy the food on his plate, no matter how finely prepared and how tasty it was. In fact, after only a few bites, Nasruddin was so uncomfortable that he decided to leave. He hurried home and changed into his finest clothing, including a beautiful coat. Nasruddin returned to the feast, and this time, the host welcomed him with a huge smile. Come in, greeted the host. As Nasruddin entered, people waved and called to him from all corners of the room as they invited him to sit near them. They offered him food. Nasruddin sat down quietly. Picking up a plump fig, he carefully placed it into a coat pocket, saying, "Eat, coat, eat." Next, he took a handful of nuts and put them into his pocket, saying, "Eat, coat, eat." Now he began to feed his coat in earnest, grabbing all sorts of foods, I bet you can guess some of the things. He fed the coat lentils and chickpeas, olives and bread, hummus, falafel, chicken and beef, and best of all, the desserts. Halva, date rolls, figs, baklava. Now, how dedicated he was to this, because I'm imagining baklava in my pockets right now. Honey, very sticky. Anyway, Nasruddin became silent as the other guests watched this strange behavior. Soon everyone in the room was silent, staring at Nasruddin, wondering what he was doing. The host hurried over. Nasruddin, what are you doing? Why are you feeding your coat in this manner? Well, replied, when I first came to this feast in my old farming clothes, I was not welcome. No one would speak with me. But when I changed into this coat, suddenly I was greeted warmly. So I realized it was not me that was welcome at this party, but my coat. And so I am feeding the coat. And that is the end of. So now I'm going to carry our flame with us as I do every Sunday. We have children's programs separate from the service. And we are going to be heading to the kitchen. So I think everybody's in there, but that's where we're going. So.
And we will sing the kids out with hymn 413. Go now in peace. This is the time in our service where we welcome someone from a community organization that we can support with our financial gifts and possibly our labor as well. Linda Heath is going to introduce our speaker. Did I miss it?
I'm Linda Heath, a member of the Outreach Committee. In addition to selecting the recipients of St. John's annual outreach grants, the committee also schedules the groups that you, the congregation, have recommended to us for our monthly Split the Plate. And this, for the month of December, that group is the Opportunity House in Northern Kentucky. This is a truly unique program that supports education and life skills development for a group of young adults that normally don't have much support. And Kate Cassis is here to tell us more.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you everyone for having me today. As Linda mentioned, I'm here representing Brighton Center and our newest program, Opportunity House. This is a new innovative project for young adults ages 18 to 24 that may not be working or in school. Our target population is really foster youth that have aged out of care, that have very limited supports, have a history of trauma and different challenges where they can't focus on education because there's so much instability in their lives. So we created a 16-unit residential facility that is project-based Section 8 vouchers, so it's affordable for the youth. We have an on-site case manager and additional programming to really provide wraparound services for these youth so that they can focus on their post-secondary education. whether that's a 2-year, 4-year program, or a trade certification. They get one-to-one service. We provide presentations and workshops to really build those life skills. And we make sure that we're partnering with service providers to reduce those barriers and limits to access. So Brighton Center has financial wellness and career readiness that we bring on site, but we also work with Northern Kentucky University and other regional partners and bring them on site so that the youth can have ease of access to all the services that they need in order to really focus on their life goals and long-term success. There are a lot of opportunities for the community to get involved. We have Tuesday night togethers every other Tuesday each month where volunteer groups can come in and host a dinner. So it provides opportunities for fellowship, networking, and mentorship opportunities. We have a backup pantry for our young adults, so we have a lot of volunteers that come in and regularly stock that. And we're always looking for content experts to come in and provide workshops or presentations that will help these youth on all the difficult challenges that we know in adulthood where they don't have the supports that many of us have been fortunate to have. So we greatly appreciate your support. We really are working to make sure that these young adults have everything they need to navigate all the challenges of adulthood, to be able to have long-term success in a career that they really can flourish in. So thank you so much for your time and your support.
We will now collect the offering. We ask for your generosity for this organization as well as for the work of this church. We gratefully receive it. Please join me for a prayer or meditation. I invite you to settle into your chair, feel it holding you up, lean back, breathe in. All-inclusive, overflowing love that supports everyone. We are grateful to be here together. We have a joy, or maybe it's a sorrow, from Edie, who says, "My son Curtis, his wife Pumla, and daughter Lula are still waiting for a visa from Lula from the German government. Curtis is in Germany working, and Pumla and Lula are in Romania. And we have some from the community at home. Melissa Rowland has a sorrow. A friend passed away yesterday. Please keep her family in your hearts. And Donna Charnecki, it gives me joy to see all the beautiful faces at church. Spirit that moves among us, we know we have fallen short. Through our community of love, may we grow again in love and action. We're grateful for the time we hold together with one another. We also recognize the larger world's problems, a protester in Iran being executed, and some injustices undone. Brittany Griner freed from Russia, and gay marriage is truly the law of the land. May we continue to live lives that live up to our values, and may we support one another in that work. Amen, and blessed be.
Our reading this morning is called An American Flag Upon My Tasby, and it is written by the Reverend Mitra Jafarsada. It is a custom, superstition, decoration to hang prayer beads from the rearview mirror, not broken bodies of long ago prophets, not agony in the name of God, not sculpted, miniaturized terror, just beads. Mine are brown like coffee beans, smooth for running through fingers. Hung for decor, they tell those who would decode something Middle Eastern, not for faith, for culture. So it is no sacrilege that the smooth brown beads break their rhythm for a cold metal rectangle of red, white, and blue. An announcement: an American drives this car. When I called, I said, "Don't wear black today. It makes you look too ethnic. Put away your turtlenecks. Choose your pink Izod." He said, "I told your sister the same, and stay away from the airports. Drive if you have to be somewhere. You," he said, "are white enough. You don't have to worry." Then he said, "But you do have your American flag on your Tasby."
Before Reverend Mitra went on sabbatical, she started using themes in our worship services that come from the book Ladder to the Light by Stephen Charleston, a member of the Choctaw Nation. Each chapter is a rung on a ladder that is climbing up out of a kiva, sort of a sacred cocoon, and into the light. The book is a collection of reflections that Charleston wrote over a long period of time, and he's organized them so that each rung of the ladder has a new theme. You may have heard some of his reflections in my benedictions or in the pastoral pause. Last month, the theme was action. This month, the rung of the ladder is truth. The chapter on truth starts out with the uncomfortable history of the United States, the disenfranchisement of indigenous populations. Did you know that American Indians did not get the vote until 1924? He writes, "Like many inconvenient truths, it is swept under the carpet of history. To see it clearly, it is necessary to climb up to the 6th rung of the ladder to the light, the place where the light is bright enough to reveal true relationships between political systems and the truths they seek to either embody or obscure. Personally, I would argue that churches have political systems too, and it is my hope that we embody and share the truth, not obscure it. And ideally, church systems are guided by a commitment to our mission. But because we're fallible human beings, the systems we create are also fallible. This world is just kind of a messy place, you know. For Christians, the mission is usually pretty clear: to believe in a creed and to bring people into the faith, or evangelism. Unitarian Universalists don't have a creed, and we pretty forcibly reject that we would ever want one. I do kind of hope we'll bring people into this faith, though, don't you? Every week, St. John's, new people come in the door and sign up for more information. In fact, if you're new out there, after the service today, we're having a short course on Unitarian Universalism, one of 3 parts, and we invite you to stay. We'll feed you, and it'll be good conversation. And you can learn about us also just by looking around, talking to people during coffee hour, reading the pamphlets, looking at our website. One thing that happens in any church is that when new people arrive, they are stepping into a stream, a moving stream, and there may be things that have been going on or long underway, and you don't know why, and it takes some time to figure it out. They may make you wonder about what it means to be you. And is this place, with well over 200 years of history, is this place living up to all those things you're reading? Are we for real? Authentic? Reverend Mitra, before she went on sabbatical, wrote a blog, and it's available on the website, and she said that these 4 months of time apart offer a chance for both the minister and the congregation to ask what the Spirit requires of us and what the next phase of our ministry together will be like. While we are in a time of discernment and rest, it is not a time to make major changes. The work of change comes after the time of renewal, after the time of rest, when we come back together. So what should we be doing to get ready? It's kind of a good time to prepare, given that it's Advent, right? Preparation. People look east, making the house fair, setting the table, planting the seeds, sun and moon together. Love, the guest, is on the way. It's a good time to dust and clean, set the table for a new year, and a renewed commitment to our mission. While away, Reverend Mitra is also considering her ministry and her calling, and invites St. John's to reflect on its calling as well. Reverend Mitra writes, St. Johners have always done a lot as a collection of individuals. I wonder, in addition to other efforts to help others and build community, what would be possible if we gathered our blessings and acted together for a common good? She asks, what is St. John's for? How will you live into that vision? What is keeping us from living into church more authentically? Reverend Mitra also asked the Board of Trustees to address implicit and explicit Islamophobia that she has experienced here at St. John's. Islamophobia, that doesn't sound like something St. Johners or UUs would do, does it? Our 7 principles certainly say we would not do such a thing. Some of you may believe something like that never even happened. And I can see why. Your minister is Unitarian Universalist, not Muslim. She has fair skin, but how you see her may not match how she sees herself. She's half Iranian. Her father was Iranian. And she lived in Iran for a short time and had to flee during the revolution, so she was a refugee. She has a mixed ethnic identity, which often makes someone feel excluded from either culture of origin. She sometimes calls herself Apple Persian or Persialachian to reflect her Appalachian and Iranian backgrounds. So even though she's UU and fair-skinned, she cannot throw away her cultural identity. There remains the Iranian name, an ethnic appearance, and a tasbih with an American flag hanging from the rear view. Certainly with Reverend Mitra or with anyone we meet, we should believe people are who they say they are. Just like if someone says they've been hurt, we should believe them too. If someone implicitly or explicitly says or does something hurtful, especially when it is related to a deeply held identity, we believe the person who is hurt. And of course, most hurtful words that we all say, right? Most hurtful words are accidents, unintentional. We try to avoid these kinds of mistakes. And if someone points out that we made a mistake, we cry out, "We didn't intend it that way." But it still has an impact. And we want to learn to make amends when it happens. At least I believe that's what the authentic St. John's would want to do. I'm going to give a small example with permission. When Russia invaded Ukraine, St. John's started raising funds and lifting up support for the Ukrainian people. We even put up a little sign that said, "St. John's supports European immigrants." What a great idea. We should. It sounds good, but since we live in a post-9/11 world with efforts to ban Muslims, bombings of mosques, and other efforts to oppress and harm people from the Middle East, Muslim or not, that sign makes me wonder how welcoming St. John's would be to immigrants from other continents. It's a microaggression. With whatever we do, let's try and think of our efforts as more inclusive rather than narrow. What if instead we had put up a sign that said, "St. John supports all immigrants"? This innocent, well-intended action hid an inconvenient truth. And it is important not to wipe the mistake away with, "Oh, that's not what we meant, you misunderstood." Those responses minimize the impact the words have and probably make it worse. Mistakes, microaggressions, and minimization, they all add up, and eventually someone blows up. Now, these mistakes do not mean that all of St. John's is Islamophobic. It just reminds us that we all have biases, all of us, every single one of us. They're often implicit and unrecognized, and they burst out at unexpected times. It just means that for St. John's to be inclusive, we must recognize that with diversity, with complexity, the work of inclusion is harder. And in the long run, it's more rewarding. More rewarding as we learn new ideas and new cultures and gain new inspirations that can enlarge our sense of mission. This is very complicated and hard, and I know St. John's has a history of doing a lot of good in the world, both as a collection of individuals and as a body of the whole. Some examples of what you all as a whole have done is to pass these 5 St. John's commitments: to be a green sanctuary, to be a partner church, to be a peace church, for racial justice, and a welcoming congregation. Probably the most visible of these 5 commitments is our partner church program, where we come together with a major production of soup and bread lunch to raise funds to support the older, poorer, rural community where our partner church is located. It is the Unitarian Church of Near St. Laszlo, Sinvasvi, near Transylvania in Romania. The lunch is fun, well attended, and almost everybody chips in, even if it's just eating soup. Many of you have traveled to Romania, broken bread with the people there, and it is no easy task to do this lunch, 6 times a year? Something like that. Next year, we're going to embark on a new effort to house the homeless within these walls. It's another example of how we might all come together to make a difference in this community at least 1 week out of the year by preparing our space, setting the table, sharing a meal, playing with the children, offering a listening ear. These actions tell a truth about the authentic St. John's. The authentic you is compassionate. What are some of the most important things about this community of seekers of faith and workers for justice? Well, you might want to point to your mission. St. John's mission statement was last revised in 2008 when you added a phrase about peace and put up all those peace cranes. Here's your mission. St. John's is committed to creating a safe and caring community, working for peace and social justice, and celebrating beliefs that respect freedom of thought. You envision a safe and caring community within this building. You want to see peace and social justice in the world, and you want a world that is filled with freedom of thought. Indeed, these are things we need in a world that's filled with gun violence and war rather than peace and social justice, oppression and discrimination rather than safety and care, and propaganda and ridiculous conspiracy theories rather than free thought. Can I get an amen? Amen. How about some evangelism? There are 3 important parts to this mission statement, right? Creating a safe and caring community, working for peace and social justice, and celebrating beliefs that respect freedom of thought. I'm going to focus on the first 2. Not that freedom of thought isn't extremely important, but this sermon will be way too long if I bring that in too. We'll do that another time. But if you look at those first 2, in my mind, they are linked together in the concept of beloved community that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. promoted. Creating a safe and caring community is so critical to a church, isn't it? When I first sought a church after being 20 years without a church at all, I did it because I was seeking a place where I could be with people who welcomed me and where I could find a place to give back. I had this sense of a void in my life, and a friend invited me to her UU church. I found a sense of belonging right away. From the beginning, I was in, and I never looked back. Another friend told me once that when you're church shopping, you want to look for a place where if you fall down, someone helps you up, not a church where they step over you. Safe and caring. The UUA did a study on belonging, and they found that one of the challenges facing UUs back when this study was done in 2001 was how we cultivate our own hearts in safe spaces and in community with one another. That is at the center of the theologies that inform us. They wrote, "The crucial relationship between our environment and its inhabitants is central to incarnation," or transformation of the idea, the word, the belief, into action. In other words, how we treat one another seeps out into how we act in the world. It's how our faith and our theology transform us. We learn, we think, we act, and we learn more by reflecting on what we do. And here we are, 21 years after that report was written, and it's still important to us to have a safe and caring container. And it has become even more important in recent years as the nation looks increasingly diverse, a diversity I hope we will fully embrace, even though it's hard. Creating a safe space and a community with one another that celebrates diversity is the work we need to learn how to do. This greater awareness leads us to actions to do better. That's what authenticity means. Now, we might want to call a beloved community, a safe and caring community, a beloved community. But when Dr. King used that term, he meant a larger world, that people of all races would live together in safety and care with dignity and equity. King was not talking about a single church. He was talking about a better world, a vision. The UUA has a common read every year, a book. And this year the book is Mistakes and Miracles by Nancy Palmer Jones and Corinne Lynn. It's a collection of stories about congregations that are on the path to multiculturalism. The author writes, "The work of building beloved community doesn't have a single road map. There's no digital mapping system that will take us directly to our destination. Instead, the work is complex and messy. Congregations that are on a journey to multicultural, anti-racist, beloved community make halting, uncertain progress at times, and at other times feel a rush of emerging life, partnership, and joy. The work is hard, they say, and it's worth it." It's worth it, they said. They describe it as heart work that asks participants to hold each other's differing experiences and needs in a loving, sustainable container, while also urging growth and change. So you see, St. John's is not alone on this journey. One way to think about practicing the idea of beloved community at a church is to widen our circle of belonging. In another UUA report, last report, this one came from 2020, and it was written by the Commission on Institutional Change that was examining how well our UUA governance and our churches live up to our vision, live up to our values. And it was after a hiring controversy. It's a very long story. And again, this is readily available on the UUA website. I encourage you to read it. It's called Widening the Circle of Concern. Maybe we could discuss it sometime. But what I think is important to living authentically at St. John's is that whatever we want to do, whatever actions we want to take, we take them together with greater inclusion in mind. Make a wider circle that welcomes everyone in, including Mullah Nasruddin in his work clothes. It can look like something simple like saying, "We welcome immigrants," instead of "We welcome European immigrants." In everything we do, everything, we can think about a wide, inclusive circle. We can be authentically St. John's in keeping our community safe and caring for one another by having gender-neutral restrooms, an accessible building, intergenerational activities, and external partnerships, very much like the immigration team does. A caring and safe community for the most vulnerable is perhaps unstated in this larger mission. If the safe and caring community is just for people who look and think like me, then it's not really a safe and caring community for people who don't look or think like me, and possibly for increasingly diverse newcomers. We can also keep St. John's a safe and caring community by doing our best to address the mistakes we make ourselves or when we see someone making an unintentional mistake. It's hard, it can be clumsy, and it can make us uncomfortable to address mistakes we make or the mistakes that someone else makes. It takes courage and kindness. Remember, Peace Church. But that's how we help someone up rather than step over them. And learning to lean into these mistakes and grow is what church is for. The other part of the mission is peace and justice. When we learn to make our own church community safe and caring, we can take those values outside the congregation. You will develop the courage to address racism when you see it if you've had practice addressing it here among friends. When we think about peace and justice, we want to stand in active solidarity when justice is on the line, like we will do when we house the homeless, when we speak out against Islamophobia and racism, and when we make soup for our partner church. This congregation's commitment to racial justice from 2016 has a long list of action items in it, and these items bring peace and justice to the world, to the nation's institutional structures where a lot of injustice lives. Things like, how do we address inequity in education, in healthcare, in food security, in housing, wages, and more? What will it take to live into those actions? One of the things your board just did is passed a statement that condemns Islamophobia and racism. It will be out very soon. It also has actions within it, and especially for learning more so that we can do better. I encourage you to take it seriously when it is released. You can do this, St. John's. In closing, I asked you to let me know what you think it means to be authentically St. John's. Thank you to those who responded: Susan Small, Claire Wagner, and Joshua Favre. Here is some of what you said. First, doubts have arisen about whether or not I have found my spiritual home, my people, my tribe. All in all, I just wanted to share that with you and do my small part in naming that which is good at St. John's, not least of all because I needed to be reminded myself. For UUs, truth can come from any spiritual, religious, or humanist tradition. That we can find and connect with the divine through any path or practice. That we can also choose not to. And ultimately, that none of us will go to hell. The Creator, the creators, the universe, the divine, the source of all things, ultimately loves us all and will reconcile all of creation back into itself. Second, these words from the song One by U2 reflect our authentic St. John's. The lyric is, we're one, but we're not the same. We get to carry each other, one. And third, there's this list. Being welcoming of ideas, people, good intent in spite of ignorance, and of new ways to do things. Lending a hand when possible at a church event, an individual, or an outside organization. Giving grace when infallibility or ignorance shows up. Showing gratitude whenever possible. Graciously correcting when appropriate in a spirit of teaching, not chastising. Appreciating a variety of music. Being willing to improve ourselves in areas of learning, diversity, and understanding church business. Doing all this together. My dear beloveds, care for one another. Make this place safe for everyone, and especially for the most vulnerable. Work for peace and justice so that we may create the beloved community within these walls and in the wider world. Use those free-thinking minds of yours to always remember what is the right thing to do. Widen the circle. Have the courage to make mistakes and respond with grace and an open heart when someone tells you you made one. Authenticity means living up to the mission every day with everyone you encounter, together with love. Amen. I invite you to rise in body, voice, and spirit and join in singing hymn 317. We have a couple of announcements this afternoon. If you're new here, please stay for the new UU class. It will be in the Kroll Pfeiffer, and we will feed you and have good conversation. I invite you to purchase baked goods. You saw them out there. I already bought some. They're going fast. While you're out there, while you're having coffee, talk to one another. Help each other up. Want to mention that Rick and Connie Mitz donated a white poinsettia to celebrate their 54th wedding anniversary coming up December 28th. And they also wanted to honor the LGBTQ marriage rights are now the law. From Amy Monson, St. John's is a solidarity congregation with the Cincinnati Sanctuary Congregations Coalition. We've been involved in supporting 2 families seeking asylum in the United States over the past few years. There's now a family from Ghana, Africa, living in the apartment at Clifton United Methodist Church, just down the street. Each solidarity congregation is responsible for 1 week of support, and each quarter, St. John's this week is December 18th, and we have some appointments that need to be taken up to go grocery shopping, that sort of thing. There may be other things that come up, but if you're interested in assisting the family, contact Amy Monson, raising her hand right there, and she's in the People Book, and her contact information will be in the e-news this week. Finally, we're having a wrapping party this Friday at 6 o'clock. Non-wrappers bring gifts to wrap, wrapping supplies, and maybe some snacks. Wrappers bring their own presents to wrap and their artistic flair. And that's all the announcements. We have another announcement. Yeah.
This is just kind of random. Does anybody play bass guitar? Will you be here on Christmas Eve? Maybe we'll talk. Thank you.
Yeah, you know about next Sunday's our choir concert. Christmas Eve, our service is at 6. So check out the e-news. There's lots of stuff coming up. Please join in singing hymn 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
Please rise.
You may be seated. This benediction comes from Stephen Charleston, From Ladder to the Light. Sacred vision is our inheritance. Long ago, the maker of all things gave each tribe of creation a special gift. To the bears went strength, to the eagles wisdom, to the deer grace and beauty. The human beings had none of these gifts, for they were not as strong or wise or beautiful as other animals. But they were given one thing that was special to them: vision, the ability to see both what is now and what is coming to be. Sacred vision is our holy inheritance. Not how strong we are or how wise we are, not how beautiful we are, only what we can see through the eyes of the Spirit, for what we see is what we will become. Amen. Blessed be. Go in peace.